Hello and welcome. My name is Gary McGeough, high school practice leader for Franklin Covey Education. We're extremely excited to be launching our very first teen leadership series entitled QuaranTEENed.
Mr. McGeough?
Yes.
I think that the teens can handle this week's conversation.
Very cool. I'm out.
Hello, everybody. My name is Abby, and I will be your host for this quarantine series today. This week's leadership discussion is social distancing. Now, everybody, will you please introduce yourselves?
Hey, I'm Divine.
I'm Dylan.
I'm Hannah.
I'm Brayden.
I'm Nyla.
So, this week, team, we are talking about social distancing. Everyone, please demask yourselves and tell me how you guys have been dealing with the whole social distancing idea. What are some benefits? What are some challenges? Let me know.
Personally, some challenges are just kind of missing my friends, feeling kind of lonely, but definitely some benefits are just thinking about the greater good, because we don't want to be in the same spot 6 months from now. So just trying to think of the future and how we can better it now for the future, so we can have a better situation in the future.
Also, for me, it's probably like spending a lot of time with my family. But a benefit, like Dylan said, is I miss my friends a lot. And I just miss my friends. Also, my softball season got canceled, so I'm kind of bummed about that.
I think that something really important to remember right now, especially when we're having to deal with social distancing, is just that we all need to really be proactive when it comes to the decisions that we're making. I think that everybody really needs to think before they act, especially when you think about like the fact that we're all having to wear masks right now when we're going out. Like Dylan said, it's for the greater good, and we're doing things to help other people, not just ourselves. A really good tool to remember when, I think, especially for youth, when we're trying to be proactive, is this connection between the stimulus and our response to the problem. And in between, there's kind of this space where we have the freedom to choose what we're going to do about the situation. So when you think about the stimulus, our situation is COVID-19. And then what is our response going to be? We need to make sure that we're making positive decisions that are affecting, because we know they're affecting everybody, and we need to make sure that we're making smart decisions that are selfless and for other people, not just ourselves.
Yeah, I really agree with what Brayden said. I think it's also important to remember that in that space where we have the freedom to choose, we're not just choosing for our greater good, but the greater good of our community. Like if we choose to go out in public without masks, we were talking about earlier how honestly we have to treat this like we may have COVID-19, which hopefully I hope none of us do. But you have to be aware of your surroundings and that you're not just affecting yourself, but you're affecting people who could like really have a problem with COVID-19.
I feel like this is a really good time to like focus on not being selfish and like putting yourself before others and just making sure everyone is healthy, because at the end of the day, you want what's best for everyone else.
Yeah, I feel like that's something really good to point out. We always focus on like how we're dealing with the situation, but I think it's good to remind ourselves of how other people deal with the situation, because if we were in their shoes, things would be different. I feel like it's been emphasized more that like the younger generation isn't as affected by COVID-19, and different situations did handle things differently with like immunity and all that. But I saw this thing online, and it was like if the roles were reversed and we were the ones that were more harmed by this virus and the adults weren't, the adults would do like everything in their power to keep us safe. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that's something important to point out. But yeah, all right, so next question. So we were focusing a lot on how we've been dealing with the situation and why it's important for other people. But even in our community, how do you guys feel like just as a community as a whole we've been dealing with this? Like what are some things that you guys have been seeing happen throughout our community?
Well, for me, I feel like we've really come together, especially with people we don't even know. Like I'll be walking and there's like these obstacle courses on the sidewalk that little kids set up for us to do. I feel like we're coming together in different ways, and we're also figuring out that relationships are really important. Like before, I feel like they were taken for granted, that you could go see your friends, you could do this and that, and now I feel like we're really having time to reflect, and it's bringing us closer even though we're apart. Like mentally we're getting closer than we were before, and that's really important, the fact that we're able to slow down from our activities and really see how important people are in our lives.
Agreed. This was definitely, we've become closer because of this. So like the obstacle courses, and we mentioned a few episodes ago about how this was our generation's shared experience. And with that, we're really like, we have all these platforms to talk about it. And there are a lot of hotlines too. Like if you're feeling down, everyone can you can talk about it. It's not something that you're feeling alone. It's all dealt with together. So it's really like made a bond, I think, amongst everyone.
I feel like we've all gotten a lot nicer to each other, like especially with our neighbors, and we're just like those simple gestures of just waving to someone like means a lot, because it's just like personal interaction that we've all like been wanting from from our friends and stuff, but just like even if it's a stranger, it means a lot.
I definitely agree with what Nyla was saying a second ago about how this is a shared experience that we all have. If you think about like all of us right now as a community having to join together to face this, it's not like this community ends when COVID-19 ends. This is going to be a community that is going to have to remember this and becomes a part of our testimony years from now. And when we're having to tell our kids or our grandkids about the situation, you want to be able to tell them that we took the challenge head on and that we dealt with this obstacle in the best way possible. Not that we didn't sat around and did nothing, but that we contributed to it in a positive way.
So let me ask you guys something. So throughout all these different ways of finding, how to deal with our community, we've kind of settled into what is now our normal lives. However, we keep discussing how when we're over this time period of isolating ourselves and distancing ourselves, we'll go back to normal. However, what is normal? Like, will we go back to just how things were before, or is there going to be a new normal? And like, are there different strategies to connect with our friends through that? Are we going to be able to just go right back up to hugging someone, or are we still going to have to go back to these normal strategies of doing the obstacle courses or staying 6 feet apart? What do you guys have to say about that?
I think personally that we don't like get to normal how it was before the disease for a while. The new normal we're gonna have, I think we're still gonna have a limited time. We need to be outside and be with other people. We still need masks. We'll probably need masks for a while. We'll probably still have the social distancing 6 feet away from people, just until we can't let up on it just because it's getting better. We got to keep pushing and pushing and pushing until it's for sure gone. So I think the new normal will be for a while.
I definitely agree with him. I was listening to NPR the other day, and they had a special about this. And one of the doctors who they had on was talking about how even when we go back to normal and businesses reopen, it's going to be the businesses that can have that social distancing, and we won't be able to go right back to full stadiums for football games, for example. We still have to keep some sort of distance, and I think we'll still be wearing masks. But also I feel like being able to get out in itself will be this big deal, and we won't really have much to complain about. And it will be closer to our normal before than what we are now. So we should still be grateful for what we have.
I feel like we're going to be a lot more careful in what we do, especially when we're it's more acceptable to hug people and just get closer with each other. But I think we're all going to be very more what's the word I'm looking? We're just going to be so much more careful and more observant of our surroundings.
For sure, we're going to be, in the long run, we're going to 100% be more cautious about everything, and washing our hands more often. All of the things that they told us to make sure that we do during this time, we're going to continue to do that, because like Dylan said, we can't just do this right now while it's dying down. We have to make sure that the numbers continue to get lower, and in order to do that, the new normal will just be to be more cautious and more aware.
To add on to what Nyla's saying, I definitely agree. After this, she's saying, people will be more cautious, wash our hands more, things as simple as that. I read something the other day that said, if you come out of this quarantine, without some sort of new skill or a new hobby or some sort of new positive change or new habit in your life that is good, then you never really lack time, but you lack discipline. And that really spoke to me, and I thought that really rings true right now because we have so much time and we're learning discipline, and I think that'll carry on even after and into the future.
Yeah, I feel like almost right now the curve is flattening, and so we are starting to lift the restrictions off. A great way to kind of analyze that with like an image is like a parachute. Like the parachute slowing our rate so we can start to take off. You know what I'm saying? But I think this was a really good discussion, and so I think that we should invite Mr. McGuey back. So everyone, please put on your masks. Hi, Mr. McGuey.
Well, thank you, guys. How'd that go? I miss being a part of this, but I just stood back and listened to your brilliance once again in recapping. Here's some things that I heard. I heard think about the greater good. A few times you mentioned the greater good, not just ourselves, our families, the community. So I love that comment. The second piece I heard is just continue to be disciplined here. See this through. We're flattening the curve. Things are going well. Let's just continue and not to let up. And then the last piece, the model is around this stimulus response. Between what happens to us, the stimulus response is this freedom to choose. And once again, the freedom to choose is putting on a mask. It's continually to be disciplined. So once again, guys, just a tremendous job. Thank you so much. Can't wait for next week. Have a safe and healthy week. Be safe. Thanks, everybody.